The city pulsed with its usual electric energy, a rhythmic dance of honking horns, chattering pedestrians, and the faint hum of construction in the distance. It was one of those days where the world seemed to move just a little too fast, except for one person. A little girl, no older than 7 or 8, stood frozen on the sidewalk, gripping the straps of her tiny backpack as she stared at a man who was, in some ways, the architect of this very world she lived in. Elon Musk wasn't in a rush that day. He had just left a meeting with engineers at Tesla's headquarters and decided to take an impromptu walk through the city. For a man who constantly lived in the future, rockets, AI, Mars colonies, there was something grounding about simply observing the world as it was. That's when he noticed the girl. She was standing at the corner of 5th Avenue and Main, eyes wide with curiosity. Unlike the businessmen who brushed past her without a glance or the tourists snapping photos of storefronts, she had locked onto him as if recognizing something others didn't. Musk slowed his steps, intrigued. It wasn't every day that a child stared at him so intently. He had grown accustomed to adoration from tech enthusiasts, skepticism from journalists, and even the occasional conspiracy theorist chasing after him with bizarre claims. But this was different. There was no agenda in her gaze, just curiosity. Pedestrians wove around them, the girl's small frame nearly lost in the river of movement. She took a deep breath, as if gathering courage, then stepped forward. The moment was brief, almost imperceptible to the people passing by, yet something in it carried the weight of inevitability. She spoke, her voice too soft for anyone but Musk to hear over the city's noise. A simple question, one that would shatter the momentary calm like a stone thrown into still water. What happened next was unexpected. The answer Musk gave wasn't rehearsed, wasn't crafted for public relations, wasn't even something he had fully thought through before. But when he spoke, the little girl's expression changed. Her lips trembled, her small hands clenched tighter around the straps of her backpack, and then, she started to cry. The busy street, the honking cars, the world rushing by, it all faded. All that remained was a man who had seen the cosmos up close, standing before a child whose world had just been shaken by a few words. And that was only the beginning. For a moment, the city around them felt suspended in time. The girl's small frame shuddered as silent tears rolled down her cheeks, her breath hitching in a way that only happens when a child has been given an answer they weren't ready for. Musk, uncharacteristically still, simply observed her reaction. It wasn't every day that his words made someone cry, at least, not in this way. He had seen investors grow teary-eyed over stock dips, and Twitter employees weep when he fired them en masse, but this was different. This was pure, raw emotion. A nearby street musician strummed absent-mindedly on his guitar, a melancholic melody blending with the hum of the world around them. Pedestrians continued moving past, indifferent to the strange scene unfolding, one of the most powerful men in the world standing motionless before a child whose reality had just been altered. Musk had always prided himself on having answers, whether about colonizing Mars, the future of AI, or the most efficient way to tunnel beneath a city. But now, he found himself wondering if he had chosen the wrong words. Had he been too honest? Too blunt? His mind, always racing ahead at 1,000 miles per hour, began to trace the possible causes of her reaction. Was it fear? Had his words confirmed something she had secretly dreaded? Was it sadness? Had he unintentionally shattered a dream, the way he often did when debunking utopian visions of the future? Or was it something deeper, an understanding too profound for someone her age to handle? He considered kneeling down to speak to her at eye level, but something told him that no gesture, no words of comfort, could undo whatever had just taken root in her mind. Some truths, once spoken, could never be unspoken. The girl wiped her eyes roughly with the sleeve of her pink jacket, her small chest rising and falling as she struggled to regain composure. She wasn't throwing a tantrum. She wasn't wailing. She was simply processing. And then, she did something that caught Musk completely off guard. She looked up at him, really looked at him. And in her tear-filled gaze, there wasn't anger, or blame, or even sadness anymore. There was something much more dangerous. Determination. Elon Musk had seen that look before. Not in the boardrooms of Tesla. Not in the tense negotiations at SpaceX. Not even in the eyes of world leaders or Silicon Valley rivals. No, that look, the one the little girl was giving him now, was the same one he had seen in the mirror as a child, when he first realized the world was far more complicated, far more indifferent, than he had been led to believe. A look of pure, unfiltered determination. She sniffled, swiping the last of her tears away with the back of her tiny hand. Her face was red from crying, her eyes still glistening, but something in her had changed. There was no more trembling. No hesitation. Musk felt an odd sense of recognition, as if he were witnessing the birth of something, an idea, a realization, a transformation. It was rare to see such a shift occur in real time. Most people spend years, decades even, coming to terms with a painful truth. But here she was, processing it in minutes, the way only a mind untouched by cynicism could. A gust of wind picked up, ruffling Musk's unkempt hair and making the girl's jacket sleeves flutter. Still, she didn't move. She wasn't done. Her small hands clenched into fists at her sides, her stance adjusting in the way a child's does when they're about to challenge a teacher, a parent, someone bigger, someone they know is supposed to be right. And that's when Musk realized something else. The girl wasn't just upset about his answer. She was about to challenge it. The girl took a deep breath, her small chest rising with a kind of conviction Musk had only seen in revolutionaries and startup founders on the verge of their biggest pitch. She wasn't backing down. And for the first time in a long time, Elon Musk, CEO of Tesla, architect of SpaceX, master of online chaos, felt something unusual. He felt challenged. Not by a boardroom full of investors demanding profits. Not by a journalist fishing for a scandal. Not even by the looming, existential threats of artificial intelligence or interstellar colonization. No. This was different. This was the unshakable defiance of a child who had just glimpsed something in the world that didn't sit right with her. Musk had seen this kind of defiance before, in himself, when he was a kid in South Africa, burying himself in physics books, refusing to accept the world as it was presented to him. And now, standing before him, was that same energy, wrapped in a pink jacket and a tiny frame. She adjusted the straps of her backpack like a soldier adjusting their armor. And then, she did something he absolutely did not expect. She shook her head. Not in sadness. Not in disappointment. But in rejection. She rejected his answer. It was a bold, dangerous thing, to reject a truth spoken by someone as powerful, as intelligent, as seemingly unshakable as Elon Musk. But she did it anyway. Because something deep inside her refused to accept that the world had to be this way. And for the first time in what felt like forever, Elon Musk felt uncertain. Musk had spent his entire life challenging assumptions. Newtonian physics? Too restrictive. Automobiles? Too primitive. Humanity staying on one planet? Too limiting. But now, standing on a busy street corner, a child was doing the same thing, to him. The girl's rejection of his answer wasn't just emotional, it was deliberate. She had heard what he said, processed it, and then, decided it wasn't good enough. It was an act of defiance so simple, so pure, that it stunned Musk into silence. The city moved around them as if nothing had happened, cars sped past, horns blared, strangers wove through the streets, their minds occupied with their own concerns. But in this one tiny pocket of the world, something huge had just shifted. The girl squared her shoulders, determination burning in her teary eyes. She wasn't accepting his words as final. She had questions. She had doubts. And most of all, she had fight. Musk had met some of the most brilliant minds on the planet. He had debated physicists, engineers, and artificial intelligence theorists. He had convinced some of the most skeptical investors to bet on ideas that sounded impossible. But in this moment, he realized something. This little girl wasn't just asking for an answer. She was demanding a better one. And for the first time in a long time, Elon Musk didn't know if he had it. The girl's gaze didn't waver. Musk, still holding the weight of her silent challenge, realized something unsettling. He wasn't the one in control of this conversation anymore. She had flipped the dynamic, turned the tables. He was the one on the defensive now. The hum of the city around them became a distant blur. It was just the two of them, one of the richest, most influential minds on the planet, and a little girl with nothing but a backpack and an idea. Then, she took a deep breath. And asked another question. A question that cut deeper than the first. A question that didn't just challenge Musk's answer, it challenged everything. It was short. Simple. But devastating. The second the words left her lips, Musk's expression changed. Because this time, he didn't have an answer. Elon Musk had been asked a lot of difficult questions in his lifetime. How do you colonize Mars? What happens if AI surpasses human intelligence? Why did you name your child XAEA-12? But nothing, not the most brutal investor grilling, not the most relentless journalist, not even Twitter at its most chaotic, had prepared him for what the little girl just asked. Her voice, still trembling from her earlier tears, rang out clearer this time, cutting through the city's noise like a laser through darkness. If the smartest people in the world can build rockets and cars that drive themselves, why can't they fix the things that actually make people sad? Musk blinked. His mind, trained to think in algorithms, equations, and probabilities, short-circuited for a fraction of a second. Because this question wasn't about physics. It wasn't about engineering. It was about something far more complicated. Human nature. Musk opened his mouth, but for the first time in a long time, nothing came out. Pedestrians who had been minding their own business suddenly felt it. That strange, invisible shift in the air. People walking past slowed their steps. Some turned their heads. Even the street musician, who had been strumming absent-mindedly for tips, stopped playing mid-note. Something was happening. They didn't know who the girl was. They didn't know what she had said. But they saw Elon Musk standing there, frozen. And that alone was enough. Elon Musk, the Elon Musk, had just been brought to a standstill by a child. No cameras were rolling. No reporters were live tweeting it. This wasn't a staged event or a viral stunt. It was just a real moment. And that made it even more powerful. The girl, still standing her ground, wiped the last of her tears away. She wasn't done. I mean, she continued, her voice growing stronger, if people like you can figure out how to send stuff into space, why can't you figure out how to stop people from being poor? Or lonely? Or sad? Why does the world still feel so broken if you guys are supposed to be fixing it? The people around them stopped pretending not to listen. A man in a suit, holding his coffee mid-sip, lowered his cup. A woman pushing a stroller halted in place. Even a biker, rushing through the intersection, turned his head slightly before pedaling on, as if knowing he had just missed something important. Because it was important. It was everything. Musk's brain went into overdrive. This was different from anything he had ever been confronted with. Because this wasn't a debate about logic. This was a question about meaning. The thing was, he had thought about this before. Many times. Late at night, staring at the ceiling, when the weight of his own ambitions pressed down on him like a gravitational force. He could build the most advanced cars in history, but there were still kids who went to bed hungry. He could create a global internet network with Starlink, but there were still people who felt utterly alone. He could plan humanity's escape to Mars, but there were still people struggling to survive on Earth. The truth was, he didn't have a good answer. And that realization unnerved him. The little girl had just done something that no boardroom, no government, no think tank had ever truly forced Musk to do. She had made him doubt. Not in his ability. Not in his intelligence. But in his purpose. Because if all the wealth, all the technology, all the innovation in the world couldn't fix the simple things, then what was the point? The girl saw something change in Musk's eyes. She wasn't sure what it was, but she knew, she had gotten through. Then, before Musk could even formulate a response, something even more unexpected happened. A voice, deep and deliberate, cut through the stunned silence. "She's right." Musk turned his head. And standing there, just a few feet away, was a homeless man. The man was older, with weathered skin and tired eyes, wrapped in layers of worn-out clothing. He had been sitting on the edge of the sidewalk, invisible to most people who walked past. But not anymore. Now, everyone saw him. He nodded toward the little girl. "She's asking the right questions, man." The city seemed to hold its breath. Musk, still reeling from the girl's words, now had to confront something else entirely, the living, breathing proof of everything she was talking about. The homeless man wasn't angry. He wasn't shouting. He wasn't demanding anything. He was just watching. Waiting. Like he wanted to see if a man who could build self-driving cars could also drive himself out of this moment. Musk finally spoke. "Why do you think that is?" he asked, his voice quieter than usual. The homeless man smiled, not out of joy, but out of knowing. "Because fixing things that are broken is easy," he said. "But fixing people? That takes something money can't buy." The words hit Musk like a shockwave. And for the first time in years, he felt something completely unfamiliar. Something that no amount of stock options, no cutting-edge algorithms, no revolutionary technology had ever truly given him. Perspective. The little girl looked between Musk and the homeless man, as if connecting invisible dots between two completely different worlds. Then, before anyone could say another word, the crosswalk light turned green. The city snapped back to life. The spell was broken. People resumed walking. Conversations picked up again. The street musician strummed his guitar once more, filling the air with sound. But something had changed. Musk turned to say something to the girl, but she was already stepping onto the crosswalk, blending into the sea of pedestrians, disappearing into the city. Gone. Just like that. Musk let out a slow breath. His mind was still racing, but the moment had passed. Or had it? Hours later, back at Tesla HQ, Musk sat in his office, staring at the city skyline. The girl's question wouldn't leave him alone. He pulled out a notepad, something he rarely did anymore. And for the first time in a long time, he wrote something down. Not equations. Not a business plan. Not the next big technological breakthrough. Just one simple question. What if she's right? And just like that, something new was set in motion. Elon Musk had spent his life chasing the future. Faster cars. Smarter AI. Rockets to Mars. But for the first time in years, he was thinking about right now. About Earth. About the people who weren't waiting for flying Teslas or moon colonies. The little girl's question had burrowed into his brain like a virus in a Tesla autopilot system. It refused to be ignored. It forced a recalibration. So, Musk did what he always did when confronted with a problem he didn't immediately have an answer for. He built something. A mysterious tweet. At 2:37 a.m., Musk tweeted. No memes. No Dogecoin jokes. No cryptic AI references. Just a single message. The world doesn't need another app. It needs a solution. Working on something new. Stay tuned. Twitter exploded. Speculation ran wild. Was this about AI? A new Tesla product? Another flamethrower? Nobody knew. And that was exactly how Musk wanted it. The secret project. The next morning, Musk was already 2 steps ahead. He gathered his most trusted engineers, not the ones working on Tesla, or SpaceX, or Neuralink. A new team. A team of problem solvers, of builders, of people who could think beyond tech and into something more human. Their mission? To fix the thing that actually made people sad. No blueprints. No corporate structure. No investor decks. Just one guiding principle. What if we built something that helped people before they even knew they needed help? Musk called it Project Aurora. And nobody knew what it was. Yet. The disruption begins. Musk went dark after that. No public appearances. No interviews. No unnecessary tweets. His board members were confused. His advisors worried. Even his closest friends had no idea what he was up to. All they knew was that his focus had shifted. For the first time, he wasn't just talking about the future, he was fixing the present. And then, out of nowhere, Tesla factories started producing something that wasn't a car. SpaceX engineers were pulled onto something that wasn't a rocket. Musk had done it before, turned Twitter into X, turned PayPal into a financial empire, turned an idea about electric cars into an industry revolution. But this time was different. Because this time, it wasn't about making money. It was about making meaning. And nobody saw it coming. The world had grown used to Elon Musk's surprises. Tesla had disrupted the auto industry. SpaceX had rewritten the rules of space travel. Neuralink had pushed the boundaries of human cognition. But this, Project Aurora, was something different. For weeks, the world speculated. Analysts tried to predict what was coming. A new AI? A next-gen social platform? Another ridiculous joke turned reality like the Boring Company's flamethrowers? No one knew. And then, in true Musk fashion, he dropped the bombshell. A live stream unlike any other. The notification hit phones worldwide at exactly 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Live, Elon Musk's next big idea globe showing America's. Within minutes, millions tuned in. The screen was black at first. Then, in slow, dramatic fashion, words began to appear in bold, white font. The future is broken. Let's fix the present. Musk walked onto the screen, not in a Tesla showroom, not in a SpaceX hangar, but in an ordinary city park. The background wasn't futuristic. There were no robots or holograms. Just a row of trees, a playground, and a few benches. For a moment, he just stood there, hands in his pockets, staring into the camera. Then, he spoke. A few weeks ago, a little girl asked me a question that I couldn't answer. He let the silence sit for a second. She asked me why, if we could build rockets and AI, we couldn't fix the things that actually make people sad. Another pause. She was right. The world held its breath. The new mission. Musk continued, his voice quieter than usual, almost human. Technology has made things faster, more efficient. But has it made things better? He glanced at the playground behind him. A few children were playing. A homeless man sat on a bench, watching. We've optimized markets, transportation, and communication. But we haven't optimized human well-being. And that's what Project Aurora is about. On screen, a new slide appeared. Project Aurora, building a safety net for humanity. Musk's eyes darkened. I don't want to go to Mars and leave Earth broken. I don't want to build AI that replaces people before we build systems that protect them. I don't want to create the future while ignoring the present. And then, he dropped the real bombshell. What was Project Aurora? It wasn't a product. It wasn't a service. It wasn't an app. It was an infrastructure. A global system designed to catch people before they fell. Built using Tesla's supply chain. Funded by Musk's own money. Deployed at insane speed. The first phase was already complete, and no one had even noticed. Musk smiled slightly. We've already tested Aurora in 12 cities. It's working. How it worked? At its core, Project Aurora was a network of automated help systems, deployed in major cities, designed to assist people in crisis, before they even realized they needed help. Hyper-efficient resource centers placed in underprivileged neighborhoods, built like Tesla charging stations, stocked with food, medical supplies, and emergency services. AI-driven outreach programs that could predict when someone was about to lose their job, struggle with debt, or face eviction, and intervene before it happened. On-demand mobile clinics, Tesla-built vehicles that roamed cities, offering free medical and mental health checkups to anyone in need. Universal emergency income, Musk had restructured a portion of his own company's revenue streams to auto-fund emergency relief for people in crisis, ensuring no one fell too far, too fast. It was social support, built with Silicon Valley speed. Musk wasn't waiting for governments. He wasn't waiting for charities. He was fixing the system himself. The world reacts. The internet broke. Twitter imploded. Some called it genius. Musk is doing what governments failed to do. Some called it insanity. This is socialism disguised as capitalism. Some called it a distraction. Is this just a PR stunt? But then, the numbers dropped. Aurora had already helped 35,000 people in its first 2 months. Homelessness in test cities had dropped by 9%. Medical emergencies caught early had saved lives. Suicide prevention hotlines had seen a 15% decrease in crisis calls. It was working. And suddenly, everyone wanted in. The power shift. Governments panicked. Why? Because a private citizen was solving problems faster than entire nations. Musk wasn't just talking about UBI, he was funding it himself. He wasn't lobbying for healthcare reform, he was deploying free medical services directly. He wasn't waiting for permission, he was doing. World leaders called emergency meetings. Tech billionaires rushed to copy him. And the little girl who had asked the question? She had no idea what she had started. 3 months after the launch of Project Aurora, Musk was back in that same city park. This time, he wasn't alone. He was waiting. And then, she appeared. The little girl. Pink jacket. Same determined eyes. She approached him slowly, a little hesitant, as if unsure if he would even remember her. Musk smiled. I never got your name. She looked up at him. It's Emma. Musk nodded. Well, Emma, I think you changed the world. She furrowed her brows. But I didn't do anything. Musk's smile widened. You asked the right question. She paused, looking around at the park, at the changes in the city, the new Aurora stations, the roaming Tesla clinics, the people who looked like they had hope again. And for the first time, Emma smiled too. Not because she had the answers, but because she now knew, the right question was enough to change everything. Project Aurora kept growing. Musk's decision forced other billionaires to step up. It changed how cities functioned. It rewrote the rules of capitalism. But Musk himself? He never really took credit. When asked about the inspiration for it all, he always gave the same answer. It wasn't me. It was a little girl who refused to accept the world as it was. And that, more than anything else, was the real legacy. Not AI. Not Mars. Not Tesla. But a single question. From a child. That changed the course of the future. Forever.